Hey friends, I've been asked a lot of questions about insurance. Now we're going to talk about what type of insurance you need and maybe some of the coverage limits, but maybe most importantly to you as the viewers is how much does it cost to have the right type of insurances for your tractor business. Hey, I'd like to say thank you to Jason. Jason reached out to me via email asking me about insurance coverages. I hope I was able to give a good explanation to him. Jason, if you're watching, thanks for asking, because I think your question is very appropriate for a lot of the viewers who might be wondering the same exact thing. So Jason had asked me, and then I put all the information together here. Jason had asked, how do you insure your equipment? What is the estimated monthly cost? Do you carry liability insurance to cover your business, and what does that cost? I've been quoted $1,500, $1,500, $1,500 to $3,000, and Jason thinks that's a little high. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So let's talk about the coverages that you will need. So the first one, to answer Jason's question, is yes, I do carry general liability insurance, commercial general liability insurance to be exact. You will also want to have inland marine insurance, inland marine coverage. And then finally, the third coverage that you'll likely want to have is a commercial auto policy. So those are the three. Those are the three that I have, at least. Now let's talk about the difference, or let's talk about what inland marine coverage is. That's probably the biggest question. So back in the day, I guess they used to have what was known as like just marine coverage. There was no such thing as an inland marine, and this was primarily to cover the cost of the cargo or the shipment from cargo across the sea from land to land. And so during that transportation process, they needed some sort of insurance coverages from pirates and so forth taking down these ships. Well, in the meantime, it actually had morphed into inland marine, because that covers various things like tractors and equipment, basically, when it leaves your own personal property. The difference between inland marine and what your home insurance policy covers is basically the difference. The fine line is once you leave your property and you take your tractor off of your property to go help, others, especially if you're doing it for business related matters, then your homeowner's insurance policy typically will not cover it. So when you buy a tractor and you're just using it on your own property to mow your lawn, to work on your own projects, typically that's almost 100% covered by your homeowner's insurance policy. Now once you take it off your property, it's a different story, and that's when you need inland marine insurance. We'd also mentioned commercial general liability. So when you're doing work that is not on your property and it's for, say, a customer, you're going to want some sort of a general liability in case you damage their house, in case you dig up some sort of a line if you're doing excavation, or any type of thing where you damage their property. You're going to want commercial liability coverage. And finally, the third one that we mentioned was commercial auto coverage, and that covers the transportation of your vehicle, and particularly your vehicle and trailer. So inland marine will cover the tractor and its attachments, but it will not cover the automobile or the trailer. So the commercial auto policy is something that you want. Now, you may already have an auto policy. You might be saying, well, Dash, why can't I just be covered under my current auto insurance? Well, there's a fine line between using your vehicle for personal or leisure and using it for business. So when you use it for business purposes, you're going to want that commercial auto coverage. Okay, the next question is, where do I get all of these types of policies? Well, that's a really good question, because when I first started doing this as a little side business, I called like my local State Farm agent and I was like, hey, I have insurance through you already. Can I get inland marine? I need coverage for my tractor. I need all these other things. Well, they didn't have policies for that. And so I was redirected to an insurance broker here, one locally in town where I live. They're known as the Steffes Agency. If you're local here to Bismarck, call Kristen at the Steffes Agency. She'll get you hooked up. She's a pleasure to work with. Now, the Steffes Agency, or any type of an insurance broker, has all these different insurance companies that they work with. Now, if you're looking for a particular insurance policy, they will reach out to all these different ones and they will see how much they offer, how much the price is, what they will cover, all these different things. So there's an advantage of going through a broker. My agent, Kristen, was able to help find me a good policy, and I was really surprised at how much it cost, simply because I thought this insurance coverage is going to be way over the top. Now, it's not necessarily cheap, but it's well worth it, given the amount of liability that they have to cover. Okay, the big question, how much is it? So the commercial general liability coverage, for me, now there's a lot of factors here. There are different rates based on where you live, the type of work that you're going to be doing. So what I'm telling you here is not set in stone. Your rates might be a little bit different. But the commercial general liability coverage for me, the premium is $166. Now I also have the employment practices liability coverage, and that's $32. So that's just kind of like an add-on coverage to that commercial general liability. I don't really have any employees, but I did tell them that maybe in the future I'll end up hiring somebody, but this type of coverage will protect me from the employment practices liability part of the business. Second then is the commercial inland marine coverage. That dollar amount for me is $343, and these are yearly terms. Okay, this is annual, 12 months. Some policies might be in terms of 6 months, so make sure you check the coverage term there. So if you combine those three things, basically the commercial general liability, the employment practices liability, and the commercial inland marine, my total annual premium is $541. So you might be saying, hey Dash, that's not a bad price, $541. Well, that is a pretty good price. When you divide that up by 12 months, it's $45.08 or something like that. So pretty affordable. I was really amazed at that. So general liability coverage for commercial purposes is actually quite cheap in my scenario. My coverage limits for that, you're probably asking about that. So when you go through the general terms, they're typically in millions per dollar, millions dollars, okay? If you get a policy, I would recommend bumping it up to 2 million versus maybe the standard 1 million. The cost and the difference in that is like pennies on the dollar. You're gonna want to probably go up a step, and it's worth it. It's very, very cheap to do it in my scenario. Okay, so that's commercial general liability, some of the coverage limits for it. Now let's talk about the coverage limits for the inland marine policy. So I got a $20,000 insurance limit, and that basically covers the tractor, okay? I also added on all of my attachments. So I recommend you do this also, is create a schedule, basically a list of the attachment name. Each attachment then should also have like a serial number on it, something associated with it. Write that down, and then maybe in the next column, then you might want to put the color, a description. You might even want to include a picture, which is what I did, and then finally the purchase price. So when I added all my attachments together, all of my attachments came to $8,330. So that's the insurance amount that I insured for all my attachments. For both my deductible for the tractor and the attachments is $250. So for me, I like low deductibles because that allows me to use the insurance as I need it versus trying to cover something out of pocket. Now these are the numbers that I chose for the inland marine coverage. Some people might be saying, well, hey, your tractor's worth more than $20,000. Well, I suppose you could make that argument, but I actually paid less than $20,000 for it when I bought it new. So it's gonna depreciate a little bit. You don't want to be over covered because that's kind of going to be a waste of your money, but you don't want to be under covered either. So you want to be right in the ballpark of what you believe that your assets are worth. Okay, now let's talk about the commercial auto policy. This one by far is going to be the most expensive, but this is also where the most liability is, okay? So I have a commercial auto policy which covers my 2018 Silverado as well as both of my trailers. Now my dump trailer is brand new, and my utility trailer is relatively brand new. It's only like 2 years old. So there's a lot of money in terms of assets tied up into covering those items. Now, there's the most liability probably associated with that because you're hauling weights and it's very easy to get into an, well, I don't want to say easy, but it's common to get into an accident if you're not being careful. Now, your driving record is going to make a huge difference on a policy like this. My driving record is clear. I don't have any citations on my driving record. I haven't for many years now. And so that greatly helped me in terms of the premium that I'm about to pay for a policy like this. So how much does it cost me? It cost me $1,623, and that is for annual coverage. Now, I went with higher amounts just because I feel comfortable with that. So my liability is $1 million. I have coverage for personal injury protection. I got coverage for uninsured motorist, underinsured motorist, and those two coverage limits are $1 million a piece also, which in most other like regular auto insurance coverage, non-commercial I should say, typically you see about $300,000. So the normal is $300,000. In my case, I bought $1 million policy for those two coverages, underinsured and uninsured motorist. I also have coverage for physical damage, so I have full coverage basically for my vehicles and my trailers for comprehensive and collision. My deductibles for this policy are $500. So if I get in an accident, I got to pay $500 out of pocket, and then the insurance will take care of the rest. So the benefit of making sure that you have a commercial auto policy is that if you hit somebody with your vehicle while you're using it for business purposes and you have a regular auto policy, you're likely not going to be covered, and then you got to pay that out of pocket or use your assets basically to cover that, which is not going to be a good situation. So if I know it sounds expensive, $1,600, in my case $1,623 per year, but when you add all that up, it's $135 per month, which I don't know, it's really not that bad. I don't think for the amount of coverage that I'm getting and the peace of mind that I have. Yeah, I'll greatly pay that any day. Okay, let's recap a little bit. Let's name all the insurances that I have and how much they are, because that's likely the biggest question that you might have. Now, when it comes to what each one covers, and if you're asking Dash, is this covered or is this covered? Well, I don't want to speak on that because I might mislead you. Every insurance policy might be a little bit different. Every state is different. So consult with your local insurance agent. Maybe go to a local broker and ask those questions. Okay, so the biggest insurance coverage is for the commercial auto policy, which in my case is $1,623. Then I have the commercial inland marine coverage, and that is $343. On top of that, then I also have commercial general liability coverage, and that's $166. And then an add-on to that policy, which I purchased, was the employment practices coverage, and that's $32. So when you add all of those together, my annual, meaning all year, annual cost for business insurance for all of my assets, my truck, my trailers, my tractor, and its attachments, including the liability associated with performing the work, is $2,164 per year. When you divide that out on a monthly basis, you divide that by 12 months, it's $180.33 per month. I think that's reasonable. I think that's really good for what I do. I can easily make that amount of money back just doing my work. So I think that's a really good premium for all the coverage that I receive. Now, again, that rate might be a little bit different based on your location and your insurance policy and your driving history. There's a lot of factors that go into it, the type of equipment you use, you name it. So, hey, I hope this was helpful to you all. I appreciate you, Jason, for asking these questions. I think many of you viewers probably were wondering the same exact thing. If there are any insurance agents that watch these videos that would like to tune in and maybe answer some questions, please do so in the comments. I'd appreciate it if you could even correct me on some of the information that I shared. I'm not an insurance representative at all. I'm not sponsored by anybody, nothing. I just want to share this information to you viewers because I think it's valuable for you to know, especially if you want to do some tractor work on the side as a business, so to say. I don't want you to get caught in a scenario where you're not covered and you got to pay money out of pocket. So thanks for watching, you guys. Please subscribe, please like the video, please share it on Facebook and Instagram or whatever social media you like. Click my little logo down in the corner. You can subscribe there. You'll get an update every time I release a video. So appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in and have an awesome day.